I didn't come back to Oak Creek to fall in love. I came back to bury my father, sell his house, and get the hell out before the suffocating nostalgia of my childhood could catch up with me. That was the plan. It was a cold, pragmatic plan, born of necessity and the exhaustion that comes from being 42 years old and feeling like you've already lived your best years. My name is Sarah. For the last 20 years, I've been a graphic designer in Chicago, living a life of sharp angles, deadlines, and a marriage that quietly dissolved 2 years ago, like sugar in hot tea, invisible, but leaving a cloying, sticky aftertaste. When my dad passed, he left me the old farmhouse on Miller's Road, a pile of debt, and a 1969 Mustang in the barn that hadn't run since the Clinton administration. I pulled into the driveway on a Tuesday afternoon in October. The leaves were turning, that violent, beautiful mix of burnt orange and blood red that you only get in the Midwest. The house looked tired. The white paint was peeling, revealing the gray wood beneath like old bones. It looked how I felt. I sat in my rental car for 10 minutes, gripping the steering wheel. I didn't want to go inside. Inside meant facing the silence. Inside meant admitting that I was an orphan now, untethered, floating in a world that felt increasingly indifferent to my existence. Finally, I forced myself out. The air smelled of wood smoke and damp earth. I walked up the porch steps, the wood groaning under my boots. I reached for the key under the mat, because Dad never changed his hiding spot, but it wasn't there. Looking for this. The voice came from the side of the house. I jumped, spinning around. A man was walking toward me from the barn. He was wiping grease, stained hands on a rag. He wore flannel, faded jeans, and work boots that had seen miles of mud. He was tall, with graying hair at the temples and a beard that was neatly trimmed but thick. It took me a second to place him. The eyes gave it away, blue, crinkling at the corners. "Ryan?" I asked. "Ryan Miller." "Sarah," he said. His voice was deeper than I remembered, gravelly and warm. "I figured you'd show up eventually." I took the key inside so the wind wouldn't blow it away. The mat was getting pretty ratty. Ryan Miller. My high school lab partner, the boy who sat behind me in history class and kicked my chair to get my attention. I hadn't seen him in 25 years. He used to be lanky, all elbows and knees. Now, he was solid. He looked like he was built out of the same oak trees that lined the property. "What are you doing here?" I asked, perhaps a bit too sharply. I was defensive. I didn't want witnesses to my grief. "I've been looking after the place since your dad got sick," Ryan said, not offended by my tone. "Mowing the lawn, fixing the gutters. He didn't want to worry you." The guilt hit me in the chest like a hammer. I hadn't visited enough. I knew that. "Oh," I said, my voice softening. "I didn't know." "Thank you, Ryan. I can pay you for your time." Ryan stopped wiping his hands. He looked at me, really looked at me, with a directness that made me want to fidget. "I didn't do it for money, Sarah. Your dad was a good man. He taught me how to fish when my own dad was too busy drinking." He walked up the steps and held out the key. His fingers brushed mine. His skin was rough, calloused, warm. A shock of electricity went up my arm, startling and unwanted. "I turned the heat on this morning," he said. "It'll still be cold, but not freezing. And Sarah, yeah, I'm sorry. About your dad. He talked about you every day." He turned and walked back toward his truck, parked near the barn. I watched him go. I stood on the porch of the empty house, holding the warm key, feeling the first crack in the armor I had spent 2 years building. I unlocked the door and stepped into the past. The first week was a blur of cardboard boxes and sneezing. I was ruthless. I created 3 piles: donut trash, keep. The keep pile was heartbreakingly small. How do you summarize a life in a few boxes? I saw Ryan's truck pass by a few times, but he didn't stop. I told myself I was relieved. I didn't need complications. I needed to liquidate the asset and return to Chicago. I needed to get back to my real life, even if that life felt increasingly hollow. On Saturday, I decided to tackle the barn. I knew the Mustang was in there. Dad had bought it when I was 10, promising we'd restore it together. We never did. Life got in the way. Mom died. I went to college. The car became a monument to good intentions and broken promises. I slid the heavy barn door open. The dust motes danced in the shaft of sunlight. There it was, under a heavy canvas tarp. I pulled the tarp back, coughing as the dust flew. The car was a disaster. Rust along the wheel wells. 4 flat tires. An engine that probably housed a family of raccoons. "You're going to need more than a wrench for that," a voice said. I didn't jump this time. I turned around to see Ryan leaning against the doorframe, holding 2 coffees. "Do you always sneak up on people?" I asked, taking the coffee he offered. It was black, strong, exactly how I liked it. "Only the ones who leave their barn doors open," he smiled. "I saw you heading out here. Thought you might need some caffeine courage." He walked over to the car, running a hand along the dusty roof. "She's a beauty. Or she could be. She's a wreck." I sighed. I was going to call a scrap yard on Monday. Get it towed. Ryan looked at me as if I had suggested burning the American flag. "Scrap it. Sarah, this is a '69 fastback. Even in this condition, the frame alone is worth saving. Your dad loved this car." "My dad loved the idea of this car," I corrected him. "He never touched it. He didn't have the hands for it," Ryan said gently. "But he bought the parts. They're all in the back corner. New carburetor, alternator, gaskets. He was collecting them for years. He told me he was waiting for you to come home so you could do it together." I felt tears prick my eyes. "Well, I'm here now. And he's not." "No," Ryan said, "but the car is." He looked at me, assessing. "I can help you. I run the auto shop in town now. It's what I do. We can get it running. It'll raise the sale value of the estate by 20 grand easy. And it might be good for you to finish something he started." "I can't pay you mechanic rates," I said, my practical side fighting the emotional side. "I don't want mechanic rates," Ryan said. "I want the passenger seat for the first test drive. And maybe dinner. Pizza. Nothing fancy." I looked at the rusted metal. I looked at Ryan's steady, blue eyes. I had nowhere to be. Chicago wasn't going anywhere. "Okay," I said. "But I'm not just watching. I want to do the work." Ryan grinned, and suddenly he was 18 again. "Deal. Go put on some old clothes. Sarah, you're gonna get greasy." That was how it started. Not with a candlelit dinner, but with a socket wrench and a can of WD-40. For the next 3 weeks, I lived in that barn. It was frustrating. I broke 2 fingernails the first hour. I skinned my knuckles. I cursed a lot. Ryan was patient. He didn't take the tools out of my hands. He guided me. lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. He'd tease when I got confused. Put your weight into it. We fell into a rhythm. The radio played classic rock, Led Zeppelin, the Eagles, Fleetwood Mac. We talked. At first, it was just about the car. Then, it was about the town. Eventually, it was about us. I learned that Ryan had been married for 10 years to a woman named Becky. She died of an aneurysm 5 years ago. Sudden. Brutal. He had raised their daughter, Emily, alone. Emily was in college now. The silence in the house is the hardest part, Ryan said one evening. We were sitting on the concrete floor, eating pepperoni pizza from a cardboard box. The engine block was half assembled in front of us. I know, I said. My husband. Well, ex-husband. He didn't die. He just decided he wanted a different life. He wanted someone who laughed more. Someone less serious. You laugh plenty, Ryan said, looking at me. You have a great laugh. It's real. It comes from your belly. I felt a blush rise on my cheeks. I wiped a smudge of grease from my forehead, probably just smearing it more. I haven't had much to laugh about lately. Well, Ryan said, crumpling his napkin. We'll have to work on that. He reached over and wiped a spot of tomato sauce off my chin with his thumb. The gesture was so casual, yet so intimate, that the air in the barn seemed to vanish. He didn't pull his hand away immediately. He let his thumb rest against my jaw. My heart hammered against my ribs. I was 40, too. I wasn't supposed to feel this teenage panic. But looking at him, the kindness in his eyes, the strength in his shoulders, I felt something awakening in me, something I thought had withered away years ago. We should get back to work, I whispered, my voice trembling. Ryan held my gaze for a second longer, then nodded. Yeah, the carburetor won't install itself, but the energy had shifted. The barn wasn't just a workshop anymore. It was a charged space. Every time our hands brushed while reaching for a tool, every time he leaned over my shoulder to point something out, I felt it. The pull, the gravity. By the 4th week, the car was ready. It was painted a deep, midnight blue, not the original red, but a color I chose. A new color for a new life. The house was almost packed. The realtor, a perky woman named Brenda, had already put the "coming soon" sign in the yard. Every time I saw it, I felt a knot of dread in my stomach. I was finishing the job. I was succeeding. So why did I feel like I was failing? Tomorrow's the day, Ryan said. He was wiping down the newly polished chrome bumper. We fire her up. What if she doesn't start? I asked, leaning against the workbench. She'll start, Ryan said confidently. We did the work. You did the work. He put the rag down and walked over to me. The sun was setting, casting long, golden shadows across the barn floor. You know, Sarah, you're a hell of a mechanic. I had a good teacher, I said. He stood in front of me, close enough that I could smell the soap he used, pine and citrus. I'm going to miss this, he said. Coming over here, seeing you covered in grace. I'm going to miss it too, I admitted. The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken meaning. When do you leave? He asked. Brenda wants to list it on Monday. I'll probably drive back to Chicago on Tuesday. Chicago, he said, testing the word. Big city. Lots of people. Lots of noise. It's my home, I said, but it sounded like a question. Is it? Ryan asked. He took a step closer. Because you look more at home here, in flannel and boots. than you ever did in the photos your dad used to show me of you in your fancy office suits. Ryan. Sarah, he interrupted, his voice low. I know I'm just the guy next door. I know I'm not a big shot designer. I fix cars. I live in the town I grew up in. But I know what's real. And what's happening between us. That's real. He reached out and took my hands. His palms were rough, but his touch was incredibly gentle. Don't go back just because you think you're supposed to. Don't leave because you're scared. I am scared, I whispered. I'm terrified. My life is there, my job, my apartment. Your job is portable, he countered. And apartments are just boxes. Home is where you don't have to pretend to be someone else. He lowered his head and kissed me. It wasn't a tentative, testing the waters kiss. It was a kiss that had been building for 4 weeks. Maybe 25 years. It tasted of coffee and longing. I melted into him. I wrapped my arms around his neck, burying my hands in his hair. For a moment, the world stopped spinning. There was no Chicago, no debt, no grief. Just Ryan, and the heat of his body against mine. When we pulled apart, I was breathless. He rested his forehead against mine. Stay, he whispered. Just think about it. I pulled away, panic rising in my throat. This was too fast. This was too good, and I had a track record of ruining good things, or having them taken away. I can't, I said, backing up. I can't just upend my life, Ryan. This is a fantasy. It's the grieving daughter meets local boy trope. It's not real life. Ryan's expression hardened slightly. Hurt flashed in his eyes. You think this is a trope? You think I'm playing a part? No, I'm confused, I'm vulnerable. I shouldn't be making decisions like this. Okay, Ryan said, stepping back. He put his hands in his pockets. The walls went up. I get it. I overstepped. I'm sorry. Ryan, wait. I'll see you tomorrow for the start-up, he said. Strictly business. He walked out of the barn. I watched him go, feeling like I had just kicked the only solid thing in my life into a ditch. The next morning, the sky was gray. A cold drizzle was falling, turning the beautiful autumn world into a muddy sludge. Ryan arrived at 10. He was professional, distant. Morning, he mumbled. Let's do this. We opened the hood, checked the connections one last time. He handed me the keys. You do the honors, he said. I got into the driver's seat. The leather was cold. The smell of the old car, vanille, gasoline, and age, was intoxicating. I took a deep breath. I put the key in the ignition. Please start. Please start. I turned the key. The engine chugged, whined, sputtered. Then, with a roar that shook the frame, it caught. The V8 engine came to life. A deep, throaty rumble that vibrated through the seat and straight into my bones. I laughed. I couldn't help it. It works, I shouted over the noise. I looked at Ryan through the windshield. He was smiling. A real smile, despite the tension from the night before. He gave me a thumbs up. I turned the engine off. The silence that followed was ringing. I got out of the car. She sounds healthy, Ryan said. You did a good job, Sarah. We did a good job, I said. He wiped his hands on a rag. Well, that's it then. She's ready to sell. I'll let Brenda know she can list it as fully restored. Ryan, I started. I've got to get back to the shop, he said, not looking at me. Busy day. Oil changes. Brake jobs. Real life stuff. He was giving me an out. He was letting me leave without a fight because he respected me too much to beg. That realization made my chest ache. "Goodbye, Sarah," he said. "Safe travels back to Chicago." He walked to his truck, got in and drove away. I stood in the barn, listening to the rain drumming on the tin roof. I had the car. I had the house ready to sell. I had my exit strategy. I walked into the house. It was empty. The boxes were stacked by the door. I looked at the walls. I remembered Dad teaching me to walk in this hallway. I remembered Mom cooking in the kitchen. I pulled out my phone. I had an email from my boss of, "New project starting Tuesday. Need you in the office for the kickoff." I looked at the email. It felt like reading a message from a stranger. That life, the meetings, the subway, the lonely takeout dinners, felt like a skin I had shed. I walked to the window and looked out at the rain. I looked at Ryan's house next door. Smoke was rising from his chimney. "Home is where you don't have to pretend," he had said. I looked at my reflection in the dark window. I looked tired, yes, but I also looked awake. I picked up the phone and called Brenda. "Sarah! I was just about to call you. Are we ready to go live on the listing tomorrow?" I took a deep breath. "No, Brenda. Take the sign down." "What? Did you find a private buyer?" "No," I said, my voice steady for the first time in months. "I'm taking it off the market. I'm keeping it. But Sarah, you live in Chicago." "Not anymore," I said. I hung up. I didn't pack the car. Instead, I grabbed my coat. I grabbed the keys to the Mustang. I walked out to the barn. I got in the car. It started on the first try this time. I backed it out into the rain. The windshield wipers slapped back and forth. I didn't drive to the highway. I drove the 300 yards down the road and turned into Ryan's driveway. I pulled up right in front of his garage bay. The shop door was open. Ryan was under a pickup truck on a creeper. He slid out when he heard the distinct rumble of the Mustang. He stood up, wiping his hands, looking confused. I got out of the car. The rain was soaking my hair, ruining my blowout, but I didn't care. "Something wrong with the engine?" he asked, walking toward me. He looked worried. "No," I said. "The engine is perfect." "Then what are you doing here? You should be halfway to the interstate." I took a step closer to him. "I realized something. You were right about the car. It wasn't about the metal. It was about fixing something that was broken." "Okay," he said, guarding himself. "And I realized," I continued, "that I'm not done fixing things. I think I need to fix myself. And I can't do that in Chicago." Ryan went still. The rain dripped off the brim of his cap. "What are you saying, Sarah?" "I took the house off the market," I said. "I'm staying. I can freelance from here. I can plant a garden. I can drive a '69 Mustang to the grocery store." I took a breath, my heart pounding so hard, I thought he could hear it. And I realized that I don't want to eat pizza alone in a barn anymore. I want to eat it with you. If the offer is still open. Ryan looked at me for a long, agonizing silence. He searched my face, looking for any sign of hesitation, any sign that this was just a whim. Then, slowly, a smile broke across his face. It was like the sun coming out. He closed the distance between us in 2 strides. He didn't care about his greasy hands. He grabbed my face and kissed me. This time, I didn't panic. I held on. I kissed him back with everything I had. My past, my grief, my hope. "You're staying," he mumbled against my lips. "I'm staying," I promised. "Good," he said. pulling back to look at me. Because I have a 72 Bronco in the back that needs a lot of work. I'm gonna need a partner. I laughed, standing there in the rain, in a small town in Ohio, with grease on my coat and a man who saw me. Really saw me. I felt the pieces of my life clicking into place. I'm expensive, I warned him. I know. He smiled, kissing my forehead. Pizza in the passenger seat. I can afford it. We walked back toward the shop, his arm around my shoulders, shielding me from the rain. The Mustang sat in the driveway, rumbling quietly, a testament to the fact that with enough time, patience, and love, anything can be restored. Even us.